Imagine if Joe Rogan just left his guests sat there looking like a lemon.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 9 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments. My guest this week is a PHP developer. He's been deep in the IT game for about 12 years. He's built illegal websites that were shut down by lawyers, bots that automate user activity on social networks, but more positively, he's a former fatty who lost 10 stone in just a couple of years. We had a great chat last Friday night where we talked about what we think is coming down the road tech-wise, about his slimming successes, and why life gets a bit easier after 30. So if listening to two geeks talk shit for an hour about weight loss and about, I don't know, combining your credit rating with your dating profile, if that sounds like your thing, then stick around for this most precious of hours that I spent with Mr. Daz Morley.
Are we
Daz
streaming?
Morley. Yeah, jumping straight in. How are you?
Shit. Good. I'm good. How are you? It's been a while since we did anything like this.
Yes, I know. It's been too long. I'm very good. We were just saying a minute ago, you hope that you are not interrupted by your kids while we're doing this, and I'm hoping that my darling second-born isn't going to kick off tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've got 3 upstairs that are playing Fortnite, so gamer rage can kick in at any minute.
Yeah.
And they'll be shouting and arguing and.
I mean,
you've got all that to look forward to.
Yeah, people look down on like fathers who just sit their kids in front of screens all the time until they become fathers who sit like they're like, oh, this is so much easier, or B, like a pandemic kicks off and then it's like, well, I don't know what to do because I'm not a teacher, so I just put it in front of you. So yeah, I see an upside to it.
Yeah. I do like the pandemic. It's basically shown pretty much 3/4 of all parents that they don't actually like their kids.
Right. So the lady I was talking to on the last episode, she was saying about like how hard it is and like for parents who are suddenly thrown into this. And I was saying about this guy on Twitter who had mocked parents for suddenly having to spend lots of time with their kids and like, oh, I have to spend all day with my child. Like, but it's like, I mean, it's not really that, is it? It's like, I've got a fucking job and my missus has got a job and like you've got a job and it's, you know, suddenly you're thrown into the chaos of it.
Yeah, that's the situation I've got at the minute. I got to keep working all day, and I got 3 of them, and they're sort of the age is like 9 to 13. They're basically at that age where they can have quite excessive arguments and they're quite articulate arguments. So they say little things to troll each other, and it just rests and builds up throughout the day until it just explodes.
Yeah,
and then you just basically got to go and break up a Royal Rumble. So has
there been a moment? I mean, look, clearly we're not going to spend an hour or so talking about fatherhood because I'm sure there's a zillion podcasts out there. But just whilst we're on the topic, has there been an argument or like an insult that one of them has thrown at the other one, where you know you're supposed to keep a straight face, but you just like you have to look away and just like grin because it's like you know, like one of them goes like, shut up, fuck face, and like instinctively you want to laugh because it's so outrageous. But have you had one of those yet?
It comes from my daughter, really. She's got, oh, you're such a Neanderthal, just get out of my way. Like, she comes out with these really quite clever ones where my boys are kind of like, you're dumb, you're stupid. Like, there's a massive difference between boys and girls. I think the boys are just kind of blunt and dumb, but girls are like, she gets me. She like, I said the other night I was trying to make them laugh, so they've got a little Alexa Dots in their room. So I was like, dropped into the boys' room, fart noise, listen out, heard the giggles. Yeah. Same to my daughter. Silence. Yeah. A couple of seconds. Alexa, hang up. Like, just not tolerating it at all. Like,
no, there's a definite sort of shift, isn't there, in like boys and girls. I mean, I don't have a grown-up speaking daughter yet, but I'm fully expecting, even though she's like 4 years younger, I kind of am expecting that her sense of humour and like need for stimulation will actually surpass Jacob.
There's definitely, I don't know if the boys will catch up or not, but there's there's certainly an overlap, especially around that sort of early teens, pre-teens era, where girls just seem to just become way more advanced than boys. Like,
do you think there's?
That's my experience, anyway.
Yeah. Do you think there's there's a kind of like pro and con to that, isn't there? Like, I really like the fact that I'm going to have a daughter who will be, you know, probably more conscientious and I don't know, like emotionally mature, and I'll be able to have stimulated conversations with her probably a lot earlier than I will be able to with Jacob. But on the other hand, I fucking love a fart joke. So
yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
you know, they're never going to get old.
Honestly, no, they never get old. I mean, I still amuse myself even now. Like, even if I'm on my own, I'll have a little chuckle. I don't think you ever grow up out of that, do you?
I don't think so. I think it'll be a sad fucking day when I like let rip like a proper ripper and I don't find it fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think you're close to death at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to chat with you about 2 or 3 things tonight. So let's get into the web development and bots, like the tech side of things first. So for those that don't know you, you are a PHP developer by trade.
Yep.
You've been deep in the I'm going to say deep in the IT game, rather than kind of tech, right? Because you're self-taught, right? And you've been in this for 15 years. Am I warm?
As a job, about maybe 12 to 15 years, but I've been building websites and stuff since the 90s. Like, I started when I was a kid.
Yeah. So you've come into this, like, I mean, the whole kind of tech bro and like Silicon Valley and, you know, Google internship programs, like all of that stuff brings with it connotations of like, people like me, basically, like people who used to be in bands or like be massive hip hop fans, or, you know, they walk around in ironic t-shirts and now they're just sort of, you know, falling into tech. Whereas you've been in it like since day dot, well, not day dot, but you know what I mean? You've been in it for a while. So have you noticed I've been... like how have things changed for you working in technology over that time?
It's just become way more complex. Like, I remember my first website, you just had to build a basic website. It had to work on a browser and that was it. Where now your client wants it has to be mobile friendly, tablet friendly, browser friendly. You have to log in, edit, content manage everything. If any little inch of it, they want to be able to change it, or like logos, images. So there isn't really, the old days of just throwing up a bit of HTML are just completely long gone.
And yet,
I think.
And yet, are they like? Because like, there's a big movement now about like, you know, like serverless stuff and just like static HTML sites, and it's almost like a shift back to that. It's like, why are we making these things so complicated? Like, why do you need a server side render?
Across that myself.
Oh, really? Well, there's a big so there's a framework called Gatsby, which is based around like React, JavaScript. But with React, you will spin up a web server, and a lot of websites will be built in something called Next.js, which is server-side rendery stuff, so it's really Google friendly. But there's a huge market for people who just need a static HTML site. Like, they don't need all of that stuff. They just want, you know, it's a hairdresser, or it's a barber, or a solicitor, and all it is a billboard for the internet. So it's a bit like a return to that, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what most people end up getting. But from my experience, like, they just like the idea. So I obviously build a lot of things in WordPress, and most of the time it is just a static thing that hardly ever changes. But I don't feel like I'd get away with just putting something static up anymore. I think like having a content management system is sort of default now.
But like, socially, how has tech changed? Like, when you started, was it like, you know, 3 40-year-old guys in a team and you, and now it's like this sort of super diverse range of like 23-year-old with like cool haircuts and stuff? Like, has that happened? Or
once upon a time it felt like everybody was a web developer. There was so many doing it. I felt like because it's quite easy to sort of learn HTML, and that was all that was required maybe back then. And I think like as the technology has become more advanced and you actually do have to learn code now to build websites, I feel like that sort of pushed away a vast majority of otherwise would be web developers because they kind of just outgrew their expertise, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just remember it being very, very hard to find work because there was just, I remember a lot more competition where like these days, it's like I go for a job. I apply for one job and you get 3 offers because someone else hears that you're applying. It's like, especially around Cambridge, like there doesn't seem to be enough web developers around anymore. I think like, because the idea of learning to code, I think just most people just switch off. It's like, code.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't understand it because obviously to me, I love it, but
it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like, so is your experience also that, because like I get into trouble with Lucy about like imploring people, like almost like begging people to learn to code, because I'm just like, you know, if they're not happy in their job, if like a mutual friend of ours, Twigs, like he had expressed that he wasn't happy in his job, and I was like, fucking learn to code, mate, it's not that difficult. And like Lucy's brother is like, he's interested in it. I'm like, just fucking learn it, just keep at it. But she, like Lucy will sometimes say to me, like, not everyone can fucking do it. Like, it's like people have different circumstances, people have different brains and stuff. But my take on that is always like, it's such a broad church that even if you're not into web, like if you're super logical, you might go into a back-end language. Or if you're not super logical and you're actually just really flowery and creative, like you might go into the UX layer. Like, is that your sort of perspective on it as well? Like you want people to get involved in it?
I do want people to code. I mean, we're literally like that far away from the Internet of Things. Everything's going to need a coder at some point, even your fridge and your washing machine, because everything's going to be hooked up to the internet and somebody has to code it. And like my boy's coding, he's got a game he calls Roblox, and it's quite a good game for kids to play because you can code your own mods. And the whole thing's just open. You can just do whatever you want on it. And I was thinking that's a bit of a weird one. He's learning to code. So yeah, you play that game all you want. Yeah, like you can play that for hours. If it's going to get you coding, that's one game I'll let you just sit on all bloody day. Yeah. But yeah, don't think people understand. It's not that difficult.
No. It's something that you only really appreciate though then, like once you've been exposed to it and once you've actually given it a chance. Because I remember thinking, firstly, like just dismissing the idea from my director about like oh, I don't know, you know, I'm not very mathematical, you know, I've like people who work in tech tend to be like my brother, and it was only when I started fucking around with stuff and being like, all right, well, you know, let's try it, that I was like, actually, I could probably get my head around this. It's not that difficult. It's just basically what it is a series of problems. And like every time you reach the next hurdle, you're like, well, Google again, and, you know.
But that mental arithmetic, it's not something you're just born with. It's something you can practice and improve on. So if you are a bit crap at maths, you can improve. Like it's not, you're not just shit at maths because you're born that way.
Well, to some extent, I think like, I mean, I got a C in GCSE, and that was with like a private tutor. Like my mum had to pay a teacher like £10 an hour or something to get me to that. And
but that's for like trigonometry and stuff like that, isn't it? That's like deep maths to get your GCSE. Like
I guess, but it's also a bit like imagine you're out for dinner with your friends. I know that seems like a distant fantasy at the moment because A, we're in a pandemic, and B, you're you. But imagine you're like round a restaurant table with all of your mates, and then the bill comes along and it's like £237, and then your mate to the left of you starts saying like, yeah, well, look, I had the jalfrezi and and then I had like 2 beers and they were like £2.95 each. And then the person to the right of you starts saying like other numbers and figures and stuff. Like I would fucking freeze up. Like my brain would just crunch and I would be useless. It's like a nightmare scenario for me. And it's never changed. Like it's throughout like private tuition and all of that. And even throughout like the last 5 years of trying to be more technical, it's like there are situations that are very, very similar to that where 2 people are saying one thing and 3 people are saying the other, and there's figures and there's schemas and there's something and I'm like, somebody needs to write this down and draw it for me or explain it to me with fucking hand puppets because I'm not going to get it.
I bet I'd get a calculator out. Just get the calculator out and just.
I get it. I know what you're saying.
I don't think I ever do anything without a calculator now.
No, but
I don't think for myself adding up numbers.
It's the difference between knowing what to add up and not knowing what to add up, but based on the context of like 3, 4, 5 other factors in your head that you have to keep solid in. Like, the only way I can explain it is like I sort of think visually. I don't know if you do, but if I can't picture the numbers like in a shape or something, I lose track of them immediately, and I'm like, fuck, I like somebody needs to draw it for me, basically. I don't know.
I know what you mean. I get like that.
Yeah. So so we were talking a bit about how things have changed, and obviously there's a few new unofficial products that have come out in the time that you've been a developer. So crypto is one big one, obviously. Cybercrime, not so much a product, but that's sword. And bots. I thought
bots
might be interesting to talk about bots.
I've made a lot of them.
Yeah, so
well, that was how my first freelance business started. I was botting for I made a bunch of SEO bots.
Really?
To sort of spam backlinks on various forums and stuff, like before the Google algorithms became like, I mean, they're quite human now and they're quite clever. But I remember when that 2002 to 2010 sort of era, the search engines were so simplistic, like whoever had the most backlinks got to the top. And there was bots around, but you had to download the bot and then run it on your own machine. And I think back then the average broadband speed was maybe like 1 or 2 meg. So I thought, well, this is shit because you're throttled by your bandwidth. I thought, but your server, that's now got 100 meg line. So I started building them in PHP. So I had various bots. I had a bot for harvesting open proxies, because obviously you want to come from a million different IPs. And then I had bots that scavenged for comment threads and stuff like that, and forums, and you just sign up to it. And I fed the bot the login details, and someone would buy so many backlinks from me and then spam it away. And a few weeks later, their particular website shot up the Google ranks, and then the people that got bumped down would come to me and say, "Oh, I've been bumped down. I need some more backlinks." And then you'd end up. I do remember I did have a situation. There was 2 building companies in Cambridge, and they liked being number 1. And I don't think they realised they were both coming to me. So I was spamming one guy, and then when he got to number 1, the other guy then came to me. And I was basically just spamming each one turn by turn, overlapping. They both realised they were coming to me. I was just raking it out of them. And
you're like that guy in
that was fun.
In Top Boy. Have you seen that Top Boy season 3?
No, I haven't.
Where he's like, I think he supplies guns, right? But then like Duchesne, who's like the crime overlord, goes to him and he's just like, "Look, did you do some work for this other guy?" And then the guy's just like, "Look, I never tell names, and I just do business, and whoever comes up, I shake your hand, I wish you the best, and then off you go. That's you."
It is, yeah. I did the same with Vine as well. I created some Vine bots back in the day. The Instagram ones are hard. I did try some Instagram ones, but they're like Facebook and Instagram are shit hot at blocking bots. It's really hard to bot on them.
They're really annoying with their APIs as well. Like, I've tried putting an Instagram API into my site, and it's for anyone that's listening to this that's not very technical, an API is like a link into basically a database. Like you pull out information from somewhere else, and then you can display it, or you can consume it and do what you like with it. And there's a lot of websites that are really, really great at offering out free information if you want like train times or weather or news. And then there's a lot of them that are really shit, right? Like Facebook, who I guess because their whole business model is data, then it's like, why would we just offer out an API that gives you, like, they don't want to even open that, let the genie out of the bottle. They'll just...
Yeah, they used to be quite liberal with their APIs, but a few years ago you could do anything with Facebook. But yeah, it's gradually got more and more strict, and they've just stripped out the features. And you have to get like the approval process is a lot more strict now. So they'll actually review what you're going to use the API for.
Yeah,
and then it's like, well, we don't want you to do that, so you're not having it. And it's like, like
Twitter are not much better as well.
yeah.
Like I remember the old Twitter API was pretty good. You could just you could drink in tweet information and build like timeline tools and stuff. And I was trying to build something sort of like a market data stream thing for foreign exchange the other week, and I was like, what the fuck? Like where's all the usernames on it? And they were like, oh, that's the enterprise API that you need. I'm like, enterprise? Like, what the fuck? I've got to pay like 50, 100 quid a month for like just me in my bedroom, like doing, you know?
Yeah, it's because but there's no other option because there's only one Twitter.
True.
Like,
yeah. Well,
now they're established. It's like, you know what? You can pay for that now. Like, where else are you going to go? So
yeah, it's when you
the bottins. Yeah, the bottom was a good little era. It's a good money earner. That's what got me started in freelance. So,
and then,
but yeah, I don't.
You ran another site as well. Can we touch on that, or is that sensitive?
It's quite sensitive. It got well, basically it started off as a forum and it turned into a platform.
Right.
And most of the people used it to share celebrity nudes.
Right.
So like when the fappening happened, like mine was one of the websites everyone unloaded it on, and then it sort of grew a little bit, and then I put like private channels in so people could share the files in that privately, and that's when people started doing a few little sort of illegal things, and they started sharing videos and images, whereas
but I mean
it got quite
like I never wanted to touch on anything this sensitive. Like I just meant like I thought it was like a sort of porn site, and they said like that you need to get rid of your porn site because it's got celebrities on and they haven't said it's okay. I mean, it wasn't like a man fucking a dog or something, was it?
No, it was see, I did a good job. Obviously I didn't allow piracy of like videos and stuff, but with the private one it was full of piracy and obviously that caught on, and I never looked at it because I just set up private messaging for people. But the shit hit the fan on that one. I just remember solicitors letters landing on my door saying, oi, this is illegal as fuck, what are you doing? Like,
did you shit your
pants?
pants?
I didn't really, to be honest, I shat my pants big time. But it was the internet. I was a product of the sort of Wild West days of the internet where everything just went. No one policed anything. Everything could just download. And I didn't quite understand how serious copyright law was and the depths. And it's quite draconian. It's basically guilty until proven innocent when it comes to copyright. And every individual infraction is a criminal offense. So it's not like your website's criminal. It's every single file that you've ever allowed to be shared without removing. That's an infringement. And each one can carry it's like a £250,000 fine, prison. But lucky for me, very lucky, the only thing they wanted was to just get it shut down. So I was like, so they said, right, we're going to press charges. But we'll give you 28 days to shut it down. An hour later, it was gone. Like, fucking deleted that shit. Fucking honestly, it was like terrifying. And I knew it was a little bit naughty because I sort of hid it behind multiple servers and proxies, and I hosted it. I think it was hosted in Turkey. They were quite liberal with what they'd allow you to host. So I thought I did a good job, but the thing is, when the authorities are after you, you need to be a serious genius to be able to hide from them. Because I mean, they caught the Pirate Bay guys, didn't they? They managed to keep them. But that was pretty.
Oh, I would have shat myself inside out if I got a letter like that, and they were talking about like, look, for every infringement of copyright law, another 250 grand, and if you can't pay the 250 grand, you're going down for like, let's say 5 years a piece. You'd just be like,
definitely,
you turn around like, and you were married at the time and you had a mortgage and shit, like I'm sure turning around to your wife at that point and saying, hey,
no, we weren't married and all that, but it definitely contributed to the demise, because it's like It's like, oh, do you know how I've been able to just afford all this stuff? It's like, oh shit, it's gone now.
Yeah.
I've got to go and get a job. And yeah, the PAYE market, yeah, that wasn't as lucrative as what I was on before. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a contributing factor to yeah, it wasn't a good year. Like,
No doubt.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, don't break any copyright laws, mate, because
No. Oh, well, I don't plan to.
yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna
yeah.
copy at the moment? I can, like, in
Yeah,
terms of like back in the glory days when you could sort of, well, don't want to incriminate myself. Back in the glory days when you could gain access to the new Eminem album or whatever,
yeah,
in those days I would have time to listen to a whole album. Like, whereas now it's like, as you know, when there's kids involved and you got a full-time job and all that, it's the idea of sitting there and listening to a whole album is like some distant opulent fantasy. Like, I may as well have supermodels around me. I'm in a mansion in Florida, like. But all of those things are equally.
That's changed a lot, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the internet, with because like you think before you had to pirate your music or pay for it, but now with things like Spotify, it's so cheap for Spotify Premium. It's just not worth pirating music anymore because it's just so affordable and accessible.
Yeah,
I think that's a massive difference with the modern internet and things like Netflix.
Yeah,
it all makes piracy redundant because it's so cheap and available legally now. So I can't think of the last time I pirated anything.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. It's like, I remember when everyone was stealing music left, right, and center, and there was this argument of like, well, if you really love the band, then you wouldn't steal their album. And I always used to think, well, okay, yes, I agree with that. You shouldn't steal the album off your band, or your favorite band. But also, if the illegal option is so easy, then people will go for it's not necessarily about what's ethically like perfect. It's about what's easiest, because people are just fundamentally lazy. So when you wrap like that around a societal level, like all of North America or all of Western Europe, it just stands to reason that people are gonna fucking steal the music. So and then Spotify
just
came
this teenagers, wasn't it? Yeah, the teenagers were the leading the charge, isn't it? Because you can't expect a teenager to conjure up 15 quid for every album they want.
No.
So of course they're going to pirate it. Yeah.
Well, it also exposed another problem, which was that the model of creating an album and selling it for $15.99 was flawed. Like, if I go and buy a $15.99 album, that album better be fucking amazing, and I maybe would count 5 or 6 albums where I think it's every track that I'm paying for 16 quid, every track is worth me parting that money. But most albums I've ever bought before streaming came online, obviously, most albums I've ever got, it's usually been about sort of 3, 4, maybe 5 songs on it. I've been like, yep, love all those songs, and then the rest of it filler, boring. So it's kind of what streaming has done is kind of solved that, because it's like everyone just makes their own albums and playlists and stuff.
Yeah, I love Spotify. I think it's better in a way. I mean, I do like it when a new band sort of does release an album on Spotify. I will listen to each track one by one and just sort of chill out and take it in. But I can't think of. I think my playlist, it doesn't play any particular person in any particular order. It's just a big clusterfuck of everything that I like.
Yeah,
it just plays in a random cycle. Yeah. But I kind of prefer that. I'm not really an elitist with the old albums.
No, I think occasionally, and one of the things I was going to say to Matt James when he was on, as we were talking about music, was I actually think the market is ripe at the moment for a new artist to come out with a real like true album, like someone that really comes out with an album that it has a particular sound all the way through it, and it's got a concept behind it. And like, because there's nothing like that at the moment. Everything is just like, here's the single, and then here's the next single. It sounds totally different. And now on this next one, we're gonna collaborate with this guy, and and that's something that's been lost.
Is the audience still there though?
I think
the audience is still there.
Yeah, it might be a slightly older audience, I think, or a very studenty audience. I think if you got a new like Radiohead out now, and the whole album sounded had a similar sort of vibe to it. And there was a concept behind it where it was like almost a story all the way through. That would be fucking amazing. I reckon people would jump on that.
Oh, I think I would. I'd definitely jump on that.
So talking about dev, and we're talking about bots and stuff, but another thing that we'd sort of agreed that we would touch on actually tonight was so the future of tech. Okay. So I've been in the game for 5 years ish, I think. You've been in the game for a bit longer. I know some things that I would like to see, or things that I think are going to happen in the next like 5 or 10 years. Let's start with you. Like, what's your number one thing that you think is going to happen, or you'd like to see happen?
My biggest prediction is I think there's an open source boom on the way.
Yeah.
I think I don't think people quite understand yet just how close the open source alternative to things are. Like the open source alternative to Photoshop, Audition. I think they're very, very close, and obviously open source and free.
Yeah.
I think that I think is going to be a massive part of the future. Free open source software. This
podcast is actually, it sort of feeds into that a little bit, because I'm recording this on OBS, which is itself open source software, and I could be forking out hundreds of pounds of like professional video recording shit, but I'm not. And this has just been coded by, like, again, for anyone that's not in dev or anything, so open source is very much developers working on this as a side project. They build it up in their spare time, they do it for free, and then sometimes what they do is they sell it off, don't they? Like, it gets kind of big, and then one of the big boys comes and buys it for a few $100 million or whatever. But things like this, like OBS, I'm recording it all and editing it all on free software, and I think you're right.
What do you code in?
VS Code I use, and
is that
iTerm.
Have you tried Atom yet?
I have. I used to use Atom.
Yeah, but that's open source as well. I think, like, I'm thinking I've got this amazing free piece of software that I do all my coding in, and I earn all my money from something that I got for free.
Yeah.
I just think that's, and like I said, like, if there's, it's a silly name, but you got the software GIMP. That's a Photoshop. It's a free version of Photoshop, and the features are pretty much all there. So you can pay £50 a month for an Adobe Cloud membership to get Photoshop, or you can download GIMP, and you've got exactly the same features.
Yeah.
I think Audacity, is that the audio one that's open source?
Yeah, that's right.
Have you ever recommended an open source piece of software to someone? Like, someone has gone, can you get us? Because I often get, because people just, because of a sort of a slightly sketchy background of my website, people just assume that I'm an expert in piracy and getting free shit.
Yeah.
And they'll come up to me and go, Daz, can you get us a copy of Photoshop on the fly? And I'm like, why don't you just have GIMP?
Yeah.
No, come on, man. It's like, no, seriously, give it a go. It's exactly the same. It's just a different layout, obviously, but it will do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
And they're so reluctant to install it. And I don't understand why, because, like I said, people don't understand just how close the gap is now between open source and proprietary corporate stuff.
Well, I think it's, if you're a developer and you're working on open source stuff, firstly, people are going to ask you about it in your interview, so it's kind of in your interest to talk about what you've contributed to the open source community. And so there's this sort of vested interest behind it of like, look, if I could just build an Adobe Premiere that was free, that didn't have all of like the bells and whistles on it, but what it did do is allowed people to schedule clips and cut them and do the basic editing, and then put it out there, that would like potentially create a low level competitor to something. Like, it would give you something to talk about in an interview with somebody like Facebook or Adobe or whatever. So there's a real like vested interest there if you're a developer to get involved in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So
so what do you think's coming then?
My next one, my prediction for the next 5 years is credit rating dating. So I think, right, I've mused over this before with my girlfriend actually, about like, what if you integrated an API with like Experian, or like, what's the other one? Equifax. That's the thing that Clearscore use, right? I think. So what if you integrated their records with like Tinder or whatever, or Bumble, and then you could see a little sort of like health rating, rag status on the right hand side of the person, so they couldn't get a green or an amber unless they, you know, didn't have CCJs or they didn't have. And I sort of thought about this, and I was like, okay, so here's my first thought about it: is if, and I actually, when I said this to Lucy, she was like, well, I don't think that's a good idea, because if that had been out when you and I had met, I don't know if I would have gone out with you. Because I was in such a fucking
nice
state. Yeah, like, I mean, I had debts coming out of my arsehole. And you know, thankfully I've managed to, you know, over a long period of time, managed to sort them out. But if she had seen like a rag status next to my face, probably would have, I don't know. So like,
can't you do that in America already?
I don't know. Not sure.
I've seen it. I don't know if it's just in a film. I remember watching some chick flick and they did a credit check on someone. I don't know if that's legal or not. I don't think you can do a credit check on other people here. But I don't know if that's a thing in America. It might just be a thing in the movies. But
I'm really torn on it, Daz. Because, you know, I've been in the shit with credit for most of my adult life. As I'm sure a lot of people do. You know, you live in your overdraft, you put something on your credit card, and then before you know it, you have to pay 30 quid a month for the interest on a credit card and whatever.
I'm the opposite. I haven't. I don't have credit. I've never used credit cards. I had credit when I was like 19, 20, got in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Thought, fuck, paid it off. But because I haven't had any kind of loan or credit for like 15 plus years, the banks won't give me a good credit rating.
Yeah,
like
that's the funny thing.
I'm thinking, I thought I'd been really good. I've always lived avoiding credit. I've never had loans and credit cards. So I go to a bank thinking, hi, I'm Darren. Can I have a loan? It's like, no, fuck off.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard this.
Yeah, you get.
I've heard like that when you pay off your like lease or like your car loan or whatever, the next month after you've paid it off, your credit rating goes down because you don't have any trackable like credit responsibilities that they can go like, okay, he or she is keeping above like their payments or keeping on top of their payments. Whereas if you finished it, it's or rather if you're still in the agreement, then they at least know what you owe, and so it's I don't know, it's quite a sort of upside down system.
Yeah, it is a bit. It's like there's a lot of flaws in the system, I think, because another one is you rent. If like renters often pay more in rent than they would in a mortgage for the same house.
Oh, for sure, yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, but London. You can't. What I was like in my head, it's like if you've got a flawless track record of always paying your rent, why isn't a bank looking at that thinking, well, surely we can now trust him with a mortgage, especially when a mortgage normally works out cheaper. That's another frustration.
I never understood that either. I mean, I had a credit rating that was just through the floor, so I'm probably not the best person to use as an example, but I remember thinking consciously, like, I've never missed my rent in like fucking 10 years or 12 years or whatever it was. So if I can afford like, £600 a month for my room, why can I not afford like £400 a month towards a mortgage? But it's the difference between this whole, you're borrowing money for 32 years to buy a house versus the idea of like, oh, actually you're buying a house for 2.5 years or 3 years on a fixed, and then you'll sell it to make money and then move on to something else. Like, it's almost like you need to move away from that mentality of like, you're lending me money to buy a house. Like, actually, in reality, what you're doing is you're buying the house for me. I'll service the value of it, and then in 2 years I'll sell it, or 3 years, or 5 years, whatever.
It's definitely not a system that just helps people who just want a home.
No,
like they just want a home. Because like I am that kind of person. If I, buy a house, I'm the guy that would just live in his house, and I'll just sit on that. I'm not like I wouldn't be the type to. I wouldn't be the type to sort of go property ladder hunt, like jumping. So
I mentioned that Lucy was like, I don't know if you and I would have got together if I'd had some like little rag status next to your face. But then on the flip side, so that there's a part of me that's like, well, yeah, I suppose so. But then there's a part of me that's also like, if you put yourself in the shoes of the 10,000 women out there that this probably happens to, maybe more than that, probably more than that, but where they meet a guy on Tinder or Bumble, and they go out for a drink. They go out for 2 drinks, 3 drinks, then they fuck him. And then, you know, they're seeing each other, and then they talk about moving in with each other. And this whole time he's been saying like, yeah, you know, I run my business, or, you know, I've got a job, and yeah, I guess it might be nice to buy a place. You know, he's just, because he wants to keep fucking her. So it's just carrying on. And then when it finally gets to like 7 months or 8 months in, and then he moves in with her, or she moves in with him, and then he actually, you know, begrudgingly, after a couple of drinks, and she's constantly prodding him and saying like, well, why don't we go to the bank? Why don't we? And finally he says like, all right, like, fine, I've got huge credit problems, like that. But by that point she's too deep. She's too deep in. So she's like, well, I suppose I could like help him sort it out. And like, oh, it's going to be like 2-3 years of him, and then, you know, 7 years for his credit rating to recover. Like, and I think of situations like that, and I'm like, this would solve that for so many women. And it's like, I'm not a huge male feminist kind of guy, but it's like, it is a bit shitty that that kind of shit happens. And I say that as a guy, like, yeah, definitely. You know, like if Lucy had known, would she have gone out with me? I really don't know. But is that like, that's not her fault. That's, you know, I should have been.
But, well, I'm approaching 40, and honestly, when I'm dating, I'm on Tinder, I'm single, and it's a concern. I don't have money problems, but at the same time, I will struggle. Yeah, I'll struggle because I don't have a life of credit. So, but I'm talking to people, and a common thing is, when you're talking to someone new on Tinder, it's like, do you own your home? No. I hate having to tell them, no, I rent. And it's like, it's already a stigma. And I think what you say, I think like what you're offering or what you're suggesting, I think it would be very, very popular, but you would end up with like a class system of all the good credit rating people conjured together. Yeah. And then all the losers who can't get a loan together. And I think
it kind of, it would kill off the idea of this sort of romantic, like, you know, I could be something, I could be better, just believe in me, like that sort of thing. And then the woman's like, all right, I believe in you, you've got something, let's fucking see what you can do. It would kill that. That'll
be missed. I've had a couple of friends who have they've maybe sort of been in some dark days or something, and they've met someone, and the fact that they've met that woman makes them want to be better. And then over the year or two, when they're first with them, they do turn themselves around because they don't want to let this love of their life, they don't want to let her down now because they've got this person in their life. I think your idea would basically kill that off, all these guys that will never have the inspiration to be better versions of themselves, because the people they're going to end up matching with are also going to be fucked. Yeah. So it's like, should we just rent out a shit house together? Like, it's just like, fuck it, let's get a bed set, you know, we can't afford anything else. Like,
yeah, I think you're right.
I think, or it might,
it might sort of spur on the death of like dating apps, because if you had a shit credit rating, why would you go onto a credit rating dating app? You just wouldn't. No. You'd be like, I'm not going on there.
Go to the pub.
Yeah, you'd go to the pub, or you'd start, if you're a woman and you had shit credit, you'd start going out to like golf clubs to meet like rich businessmen or something, somewhere where they're not gonna, you know, they won't credit check. Maybe they will. Maybe that's another future thing. They'll start credit checking people on their way into venues.
Yeah, I think like credit checking certain jobs is a thing, isn't it? Because if somebody's got a bad credit or in the heavy in debt, they're maybe more likely to steal or get up to mischief to try and help financially, maybe.
Oh,
it'd be like,
when I was working for a bank in the city, it was after, I mean, I worked for a bank throughout the credit crunch, but after the credit crunch, we used to have horror stories, like people who had fallen into, not hardship, because they were like city workers, but they'd had issues through no fault of their own. You know, like their partner had lost their job in the crash, and then they were forced to, you know, do this or do that, and then something had fallen through the cracks, and then that's it, they're fucked. Like, and like they would come in for an interview, someone would go, I love them, offer them the job, yeah, cool, can you go through pre-employment screening, they call it, and you do a credit check all the references and stuff, and then you have to sit down in a room and go, unfortunately, there's been an issue. It looks like you've defaulted on something, and they will swear blind that it hasn't happened, because as far as they know, it hasn't happened. And you're like, you have to go away and do, like, we can't tell you what it is. You have to go away and do your own digging. And it's, you know, a lot of the time it is something totally innocent, and yet it will fuck them for like maybe years. Like, they'll be ostracized from city employment, even though they might not have any exposure to anything that would actually present a risk, like, you know, people's account numbers or PIN numbers or anything like that. All of that is off limits to them. It would just be like a rolling compliance, like checking, I don't know, sheets have come back in, or that you know, this email has been answered on time, or that this like PAs, executive assistants, who have no actual, like, their fingers never touch accounts or figures or anything like that, would be pre-employment screened. It's fucking nuts, heartbreaking.
Do you think like a Chinese style social credit sort of system will come to sort of Europe and the sort of West at some point?
Ooh, that's dark. Maybe. Yeah.
So, because that would be that would sort of tie into dating, wouldn't it? Because if that did roll out, you'd have like a government API that you could just tap into straight away.
Yeah. Well, you could hack it with a bot or something. You'd be like, show me all the fives. Show me all the fives who've got their settings set to, I would accept a 1 or above. Like,
you could also find yourself creating, like, if this dating app, if everyone knew, right, I had, like, dating is in a modern world, you're going to be on an app and you need a good credit score. You might create like a Black Mirror world where everybody's just wearing a fake smile, just trying to get a good, you know, trying to get good feedback from people. And I think, like, with the credit rating as well, everybody will just be behaving. I think maybe as a society, it might actually encourage people to be more cautious with their money and credit score if they know that will happen if they're single. They're going to be held back by it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because it doesn't really affect you. Yeah, it doesn't affect you too bad having a bad credit rating, because you can still get a house, you can still live, you know. But when you make it part of finding love, all of a sudden it's like, shit, it now becomes part of your gym routine, checking your credit score all the time. Like, got to hit the weights, got to do some cardio, got to check the credit score. Now I can go on Tinder. Like,
we're probably not that far away from that. I mean, we're sort of talking, you know, cynically, like we're sort of joking about it. But what if your dating profile was connected to your fitness first profile and your credit score? And I mean, we're not far from that social credit thing. Like, just show me people who go to the gym, like proven go to the gym 3 times a week and have a credit rating of above blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think it'll solve problems. It'll also create new ones. Definitely.
Yeah. But okay, I'm going to tell you another one. So here's my number 2, and then we'll do your number 2. So I think next 5 years, I don't know if this will happen or if I just really want it to happen, but I think online voting. Discuss.
Yeah, I'm well up for that. I think, as you know, I think the recent election in America was sketchy. I mean, I watched the hearings, the Giuliani hearings, and obviously it's some whack jobs, but some of them are like fuck, you know what I mean? You're like, these are serious problems. I mean, it might not have been enough to flip it the other way, but there definitely is something happening. There's definitely people trying to manipulate it. And then you think with blockchain technology, you can completely and utterly secure that perfectly, because on the blockchain, it's pretty much impossible to fraudulently put anything on it.
Sure.
Because of the way it's working. So if it was like backed up by a blockchain, you could have secure, perfect voting.
Yeah.
All backed up by, like, needing an ID to sign up and stuff like that.
Plus,
but yeah, I'm all up for it, man.
It's one of these weird things where whenever we get up to an election, you always get all of the, like, I don't know, leader of opposition and the current prime minister or whatever, telling anyone that will listen that they have to get out and vote. Turnout is key. You've got to get out and vote. They're constantly going on about it. You never not hear that on any broadcast when you're in a run up to an election. But I wonder how many of them would actually put their weight behind online blockchain voting on the basis that I think if you rapidly increase the turnout, I think democracy in the UK would be turned on its head.
Not a fan.
What's your second point? Let me just grab a beer. Also, I'm still here. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere.
No.
I won't leave you.
My second one's something MJ takes a piss out of when talking
Your
about my weight
penis.
loss.
Right. Okay.
Oh yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
he makes this joke. He says, "Oh, you're photoshopping yourself." Like I've photoshopped myself in real life.
Oh right.
I think that's a technology that I want, and I've actually figured out how we could be photoshopped in real life and live in filters. And I watched this really amazing YouTube video, and they were talking about like contact lenses and these superconducting materials they're generating these days, where the static of your own body is enough to run these things. And they've got so in the future you could have a contact lens that has an onboard processor and stuff running on the static energy of your own body,
like a car battery,
and through that,
like self
yeah.
See,
I'm thinking when that technology progresses, you can have like augmented reality. So you can have like a heads-up display, and you think you could have like, maybe you could have a profile, like you could have like a filter. So you go onto your account, and you have a filter, and then you project your filter out. So everyone else's contact lenses will apply that filter to your face, like a Snapchat filter. So people could walk around with little bunny ears or that there, or having all their jawline tucked in. Yeah. And we could live a life where everybody's photoshopped because you're always looking through life through special contact lenses.
That's a good one. That sort of takes me back to a conversation I had with Richard Bryce, where we were talking about deep fakes, and I was saying, like, how far away are we from that, like kind of that technology? Like, you would have lenses in your eyes, but you could deep fake your, like, let's say husband to look like Brad Pitt while you're fucking him, and is that cheating? Like, if in 10 years time you put your lenses in and you're thinking that your husband, like, he's like, okay, look, I'll fuck you tonight because it's your birthday, but I'm going to make you look like Brad Pitt. Like, I don't think that's outrageous to think that is probably on the horizon. Like,
I think it is. Like, when I was watching this thing, it's like, it's very primitive at the minute, obviously, but when you look at the other technology, once they've actually got the concept, and it's a working concept, it snowballs and becomes very advanced very quick. Like, smartphones were amazing within a couple of years of their first launch. And I think it's I was thinking, I was just laughing. I was thinking, because he always says I'm photoshopped. I was just thinking, I wish I was, because it was so much less effort of actually going through the effort of training and dieting. I could have just photoshopped myself in real life.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because we've been gassing away for a while, and I want to touch on weight loss also. So I suppose from a podcasting perspective, like weight loss and like making a change and all that stuff is typically something you would find in, like, I hope this isn't sexist, but it's typically something you would find in a more sort of like woman-y podcast. Like, this is how I lost 10 pounds in 3 weeks, and now I've got a bikini body and all that stuff. It's a bit different for men, right? Like, it's more, we're not judged so much on our appearance. You were a bit bigger back in the day, certainly when I first met you. What was it that made you go, right, I'm gonna fucking, and it, like, well, let's start off. How much did you lose, and then how did you do it?
I'm about 2 pounds away from losing 10 whole stone. My biggest was 21. my biggest I got to 21 stone 6. That was the highest I'd ever weighed myself.
Really?
So that was maybe 2016, 2015, sort of prime Vine years. That was when I was at my absolute heaviest and biggest.
I had no idea that you were that big. I thought, like, in my mind, I remember you being quite big, but I thought you were probably 15 stone-ish.
Yeah, I don't know how. It's just very, very fat. I mean, I can see it now when I look in, because I did have this chin. I didn't have one. I didn't have one. It was just a blob. Like, I got photos, and it's just my face just joins the rest of my body as one smooth contour, because I didn't have any kind of shape to my head. It's just big fat head. But yeah, I think I got started because I scared people, man. I was actually starting to scare family and friends, and it's like, yeah, there's this sort of fat jokes and piss taking turned into like, fucking hell, Daz, you're killing yourself, mate. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's like, kind of wakes you up. Yeah, my mum was scared as well, I think, because she, for one of my birthdays, it was like, she bought me sessions with a personal trainer. And obviously that's quite insulting, obviously, maybe if you don't want that kind of thing. I think a lot of like people would be like, fuck off, what are you doing that for me, kind of thing. But yeah, it gets to a point where it's like, look, get down the fucking gym, you're killing yourself. Yeah, that was a genuine concern from friends and family. Yeah.
And like, so how did you, I know this maybe sounds a bit simplistic, but how did you stick at it? Because I've started gyms before, and I just feel like, so here's my take on gyms. It's like they've got horrible house music. It's full of mirrors. It's full of people who are way buffer than me. And I walk in there like a fucking tourist. I'm like, I don't want to be here. This is gross. It stinks. Everyone's sweating. Horrible music. And then, you know, you do a bit of exercise and you're there and you give it a try, but then it gets easier over the next 2 or 3 weeks to just go like, oh, like maybe I'll just have a night in. I'll have a takeaway. Fine. Like so how did you get over that? And
it's a good question. I can't. I'm not really sure. I think for me, it was a switch. I had like sort of an intervention, but not as a one group. It was just kind of like, at the same time, I just had lots of friends and family like genuinely concerned. And there's some stories as well. It starts cycling through your head, and you think, fuck it, like, you do sort of embarrass yourself. And I remember going for walks and stuff like that. I mean, I got so bad, I used to lose my breath going up the stairs to the toilet. Like, I was just so unfit.
Yeah.
Like, I got to the top of the stairs, oh, fuck, I'd take a breath then. Like, and there was this hill. My mum started dragging me out. And my mum's like a little Glaswegian, like when she gets cross, you don't cross her. Like, so she started dragging me out. It's like, well, I take the dog for a walk. You're gonna come with me. And there's a hill. There's a hill in the village I used to live in. Right now, I could walk up it in about 3 minutes. I used to get about a quarter of the way up, and I used to stop. And I'd have like bad legs. I'd be out of breath. I'd be dripping with sweat, and I'd just be fucked. And it gets to that point, and you think, that's like, you're either going to become the guy that's in bed, just being fed. You end up getting big, and you end up on fucking Jerry Springer or something. Or this morning, like being wheeled out in front of Holly, like, I'm so fat I can't move, kind of shit.
Yeah.
Or you fucking get your shit together. And something just flipped. Honestly, it was just like a determination just kicked in, and I honestly can't tell you where it came from. It just became, literally overnight, it was just an obsession. Just an absolute obsession, all day, every day. It was like you start torturing yourself. And where you would normally go to sort of, I mean, I used to go to McDonald's thinking, like, I'd pull up in the drive-thru and I'd be like, you know, lean out the window saying like, can I have 2 Big Mac meals? Can I have a double cheeseburger, and can I have an ice cream? And he'd be like, all right, kids, what do you want? Like, fucking, I ordered so much food, like, and I'd sit there and eat it all.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, an hour later, I'd be in the fridge snacking. Like, I just ate and ate. And you think, when that obsession kicks in, like, oh, you're losing this weight.
Yeah.
You look at that McDonald's and it starts just, it's like, yeah, it becomes different. Like, the way you look at the food and stuff, you start seeing it as the enemy. Like,
when was the last time you had a macadamia?
About 2 weeks ago.
Like, how have people responded to you as skinny Daz versus you being large Daz? You notice I'm not saying fat Daz, because I may get that big, I don't know, but like, have you, like, your life has obviously changed. You probably feel a lot more, you know, sprightly, and you know, I'm sure you're dating and all that stuff, but Like, how have you noticed on a social level, like the way you walk into the office, or you know how your friends greet you and stuff? How's things changed since you've lost all the weight?
Well, I think people feed off each other's energies. So, like, because I'm not fat and miserable and sort of grumpy as often, I'm still a grumpy git, but I feel like once you've lost weight, like I do have better relationships in general with people, just because me and myself, I'm just a little bit more confident, a little bit more assured. I've been through it, I've done it, and I've achieved a few things. And when you actually get there, I think that just sort of echoes from you and it bounces back at you. I think, like, you know, when someone who's hyper positive comes in the room, you like who's very flamboyant and very friendly, and that it does lift the entire room. And I just think, like, just having that sort of like I'm still quite a withdrawn guy, but I'm just a lot more positive, because nothing will phase you, like, because you know what you can achieve. So you've always got that sort of positive mentality of like, yeah, throw it at me, I'll figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it improves everything. Yeah,
I feel like that with like, not to bring it like everything back to shitty open mic comedy, but I feel like since I started doing comedy, that was the first thing for me where I was like, shit, like I can't fake this. I'm gonna teach, like, well, not teach myself it, but I built it up from nothing. Like I didn't know how to do it. I died on my ass, and then I did it a load of times, and I got better. And I felt like that gave me some sort of strength. Then I was armored with that when somebody said, "Oh, you should learn to code." Like, it didn't seem outrageous that I could learn how to do something that I was completely unfamiliar with.
Yeah. You push yourself out your comfort zone. You get you're more likely to do it again. You know?
And I've often wondered, like, is that something that only comes with age? Like, once I got to 30, I was like, I want to do this. I think I can do this. But if you had said to me at 21, you should try and do stand up, I probably would have been like, I can't fucking do that. Like, I'm gonna shit my pants and run away. Like, is that a thing? Like, do you think it's because you reached, like, how old are you now? 34 ish?
37.
37, are you? Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Yeah, fuck. I think, I feel more assured of myself now I'm older.
I think a lot of
more.
Like, I always tell Lucy this. I'm like, once you get to 30, all the bullshit leaves the room. Like, when you're in your 20s, you just want to be cool. You just want to be the cool guy who all the girls want to fuck, and the guy you make the guys laugh, and you've got the cool job, like maybe you're the DJ or the drug dealer or like whatever it is. And then when you get to 30, nobody wants to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear that you're a DJ that's trying to make it on Friday nights and stuff. Like, it's literally just down to what you can do, what you can teach yourself to do, and then and the output of those things. And I feel like then once you force yourself to do that, whether it is learning to code or weight loss or whatever, there's a real kick to that I don't remember ever feeling in my 20s.
I do. I'm exactly the same. I don't remember feeling like I think, like, as I'm older, I've got a much richer sense of reward. Like when I'm working and stuff like that. It's when I was younger, I didn't find that kind of thing rewarding. I just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah. Where now it's like quite nice having a job and being told you've done a good job, and like you're getting recommended and stuff like that. It feels good. Like, and it makes you want to work harder to earn more of that appraisal. And
for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think it's any coincidence that since, I mean, I don't know what your professional situation is at the moment, but I feel like since I turned 30, or certainly since I turned 35, since I became a father, basically, my professional and financial situation has improved immeasurably. And I feel like once you get to that stage in life, and it could be something to do with like fatherhood, I don't know, with like responsibility and, you know, feeling like you have to provide, could be absolutely something to do with that. Certainly.
Do you feel less impulsive now you're older as well?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know. Like I'm still a bit like, I've just got, like, I've been getting into woodwork recently, and I'm a fucking fiend for like tools now. Like, I'll be like, I've just got to get an STS drill. Got to order one now. Yeah. And Lucy would be like,
you like me with photography then? If I see a lens that I want, I'd submit. That's it. month after month, I am fixated. I have to get that lens, and I will save and save. Like, yeah, I know the feeling. It's like proper gearhead.
Like Lucy will be like, you know, she'll be explaining like mortgage and like long-term plans and 5-year things and all that stuff, and she'll be like, we just have to not be impulsive, not just go off the rails, not do this, not do that. And I'll just be like, I am none of those things. Like, I'm gonna buy tools and like fucking table saws and drop saws, and I'm gonna get this drill and that. Like, you just have to fucking rein me in.
Yeah, I think that's once you get a hobby though, like, it's annoying because you got your hobby now, so it's always going to be draining your money. And if it's not draining your money, it's going to be on your head and how much you want to spend that money. Like, I don't think you can beat it. I think you just have to give into it.
Are you do you have like sort of? I have about 4 hobbies though that I get obsessed with. Like, a lot of people talk about, oh, you know, sometimes I get obsessed with stuff, and I'm like, at the moment, I want to game on the PS5 because I've just got that. I want to do shit tons of woodwork. I want to get this podcast exploding. And then I want to learn a shit ton more like web dev stuff. Like, I don't want to slow down any of it. Like, if life challenges it in some way, if somebody's like, you should really spend more time with your children, I'm a bit like can't they do it with me? Like, isn't it like a sort of fun? Yeah, you know, like it's.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like I'm like, when I'm on my Tinder matches, sometimes like I have cancelled dates in favor of my hobbies just because it's there. I just really want to do it, but I've agreed to go and meet this person. You just sorry, I can't make it. I don't feel well. Yeah, so you just make an excuse because it's hard once you do pick up hobbies and stuff, and they become sort of labor of loves. It's a very difficult mistress to sort of put down, isn't it? Like,
it is, and it's like I think again, like going back to that whole reward feeling that you get in your 30s, it's sort of there's nothing beats the feeling of, like, for me, like, all I did was like make a shitty coffee table, and to be honest, by all accounts, it's, I mean, if you measured it against a truly qualified, like, I don't know, joiner, or like, I mean, this is how entry level I am. I don't even know the name of the actual tradesman that would make a coffee table, but
they're called carpenters.
Carpenter, right? Yes, right. Yeah. If you measured it against an actual carpenter or like joiner's output, there would be no comparison. But the feeling that I get,
that's that. Yeah.
Of like,
but you've got, when the carpenter comes in and sees your work, they'll laugh at it, and then you'll be like, fuck you, I'm gonna get better at this. And eventually, it's always that it's the same pattern with everything you get involved in. Like, when you're a noob, the experts are gonna laugh at you. Like,
anyway, on that very light note, we're gonna have to leave it there because we've been chatting for fucking ages, Daz Morley. But yeah, it's been really fun. We've covered a lot of stuff tonight: weight loss, bots, PHP development, whether we think that tech and tech in inverted commas has changed, and our predictions for the future. I'm sorry we didn't get through all of them, but we have been, you know what, we've been gassing away.
Man, it's been good. It's been a while since we had a chat. We need to get the STC boys together after this lockdown nonsense is finished.
That would be nice. I'd be bang up for that. If we can get some STC babysitters, we'd be all good.
I know, like, the babies kind of stopped all that in its tracks, didn't it? Everyone started popping little ones.
Yeah, well, children just ruin everything. I might change that to my tagline on Twitter,
I think you should. It's going to be my status as soon as you hang up.
Cool. All right, well, thanks very much, Daz Morley. This has been a lot of fun, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, take care, man.
Cheers.